very exciting day. This is the 100th episode of Carla Knits. I started this YouTube channel back in February of 2021, and today is July 11th, 2024, and I am so excited to be here to share my crafting, knitting, crocheting adventures with you all. Thank you so much to those of you who have followed along on this journey, and if you're new, welcome to you. Thank you everyone who has been a part of the Carla Knits community, whether you are a subscriber, a friend on Instagram, an in-person knitting friend, if you've commented, if you have joined in the Carla Knits Ravelry group, make-alongs. Thank you so much for making this a very special thing for me. I am just really blessed by all of you, so a big thank you to everyone. So today is Thursday, July 11th, and episode 100, and we've got lots to do today. So I'm going to share about our current make-along in the Ravelry group. We have the Mery make-along, so I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to share what I'm wearing, some finished objects, some works in progress, and then I have some questions that I got, and so we'll have a little bit of question answer time in this podcast. So thank you for joining me. So settle back and we will get started. So what I am wearing, we'll start with that first. I am wearing the Luminous Summer Tee by Minimi Knit Design. I knit this last summer using Juniper Moon Farm Zooey in the color Sloop. That's a great name, but it's color number 16 Sloop. I really love this top. I should wear it more often. When it gets so warm in the summer, I sometimes think you're not going to wear your sweaters, but this one is definitely, breathable. And, when I go to places where, I would be a little more dressed up like church, I definitely could be wearing this. The air conditioning is on, and this would still feel really, really great. So I really love this top. I think it was a fairly quick knit for me. So I really highly recommend this pattern. I could see myself making another one. I really enjoy this yarn too. So before we go on into projects, I just want to share a little bit about our make-along. So I am hosting the Mery make-along in our Ravelry group. This is essentially a Christmas in July make-along, but it started July 1st and goes through August 31st, so 2 months. And the idea is to get a head start. If you're someone who likes to gift knit or crochet or make, it's a good thing to get a head start on that over the summer. It just takes a little bit off your plate towards the holidays. So if you'd like to join in, we'd love to have you. You can, I know there's several Christmas and July make-alongs going on, so you can enter in this make-along. You can enter in other make-alongs. We already have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We already have 8 finished objects in the group, which I think is just great. And because there is only one thread this year, I just combined a chatter and a finished object thread. I'm asking, and it's in the notes at the beginning of the thread. If you do have a finished object, post it twice. That's how you get extra credit for your finished object. So I'm going to share with you what has been made so far and include some pictures. So a pair of scrappy socks by Ravelry user Tree Source Ltd. That's Elaine, and I think Elaine, you are just the queen of scrappy socks. I always love seeing the different scrappy socks that you made, so this one is great. Let's see, Farmstead Knits, Stephanie made a pair of blueberry waffle shorties. Yarn It Heidi, who also has a podcast, she made tree scrubbies. So these were crocheted. I shared last year that I had crocheted these tree scrubbies. I think they're really fun to make, and they make for nice little gifts for people. Let's see. And then M's Little Nest, that's the Ravelry user, and this is Emma. I have 1, 2, 3 finished objects by Emma. So Emma, you are doing great on your gift making. So the first is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes socks. And I love that song, by the way. Do you all know that song? I guess if you're of a certain age, you probably do know that song. And then she made the Seed Stitch Pom Pom Tea Cozy, which I think is so very fun. And then the LOSY hat. And I had to look up, you know, on the pattern page, you know, why is it called the LOSY hat? And it stands for Leftover Sock Yarn Hat. So I'm thinking I have lots of leftover fingering weight yarn, so that would be a really fun hat to make. And going on, Roselba B, who is Rosie, made a beautiful pair of colorwork mitts. She adapted a pattern to put the colorwork on her mitts. Rosie, I just think of you as the queen of fingerless mitts and gloves. I just love all of your fingerless mitts that you make, and these are just beautiful. And then finally, the Vanilla Latte Socks by Knitting Bandit 1, who is Lorna. So congratulations, everyone. You are doing great. Hop on. It's just early July, so we have plenty of time to work on those things. So you can chatter in the group, you can share works in progress, you can share what yarn you're using, you know, anything you would like to share in there. And at the end of the make along, I will be drawing for pattern prize on Ravelry. So thank you to those of you who are participating, and I'll be sharing in this episode some works in progress that I am making for the Mery make along. All right, we're going to get into some finished objects. I have one knitted finished object and then several crocheted finished objects. So my first finished object is the Rose City Roller Socks. I do have two. Rose City Roller Socks by Mara Catherine Bryner. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. Has been around for a while. There are many people who have knit this. After trying these on, I absolutely love the fit of these. So I know I will be making this pattern again. I was already thinking, like, for next year's Make 9, I'm putting the Rose City Rollers on because I definitely want to make more of this pattern. The yarn that I used was by Hedgehog Fibres, and it's in the color Fly, and I just think that is so pretty. And it just, you just start in stockinette for as long as you want. She suggests 1 inch or 1.5 inches. I knit 18 rounds before going into the heel. But yeah, I can't say enough good about this pattern. This was really fun and a fairly quick knit too. So really enjoyed those. My next finished objects are all dishcloths. So I am participating in the Back Porch Fiber Company's dishcloth make along. So she has a podcast, Laura, on YouTube, and she is hosting a dishcloth make along this year. And I shared at the beginning of the year that I have a lot of cotton yarn, specifically cotton scraps, that I would like to get through. And so I am making dishcloths. And as of the end of June, I shared on my June recap, I believe it was 17 dishcloths, which is a lot, but I'm still not noticing a big enough dent in that cotton yarn drawer. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna just get on, take some time now and work on some dishcloths. And they really go really fast. But the first set of 3, and I did share a couple of these in that June recap because I did squeak a couple of them in June. But this is the Garden Washcloth by Emily Clawson, who Yarnberry. She also has a podcast. So it comes to either make a washcloth or a dishcloth. And this is actually the dishcloth size, which turned out smaller than her dimensions. So like, you know, I'm a tight knitter, so I guess I am a tight crocheter as well. So these could be bigger. So I will try these as dishcloths to see what I think about this size. I could have probably added some rounds to it, but I thought I will just go with the pattern. But I think these are really, really pretty. And so all of these were using leftover yarn. So it was fun that I had enough to make, you know, these solid dishcloths. The next, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dishcloths are all the same pattern. And you've heard me talk about it quite a bit this year. This is the Corner to Corner Moss Stitch Dishcloth by Agat Rottman, she's also known as Goody on Ravelry. And so I really enjoy this pattern. And so I have 5 dishcloths that I have made, and very, very scrappy. But I just think these are so fun. Yeah, so for this one I had two little sections left of 2 balls of yarn, so just used those, and it was enough to make this whole one. That was nice. And then this this is funny. I started out with this section and I thought I was out of that yarn, so went into this, but just ran out towards the top. But then I found another little scrap of that original starting yarn. So that one's kind of a fun little scrappy corner there. And then this one, I have a lot of this bright orange left for some reason, but I thought this was kind of nice and bright and summery, and you know, the pinks are definitely my colors. So these are really, really fun to crochet. I actually really love the scrappy nature of them, so I couldn't recommend this pattern more. So I know there will be more in my future. I keep thinking I probably should branch out and try some different patterns because maybe this is getting boring to you guys, but I really enjoy it, so I have to take that into account too. If I really enjoy crocheting it, then I think that's okay as well. Just fun with the different color combinations and coming up with those, you know, how to use those scraps together. So those are my finished objects for today. We will go into whips. This whip, first whip that I'm going to show you, I really, really would like to be a finished object. I do have to tell you, I am getting maybe a little burned out. This is the Fiddly Bits Cowl by Juniper. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And from the last time, you can see I've made some decent progress. And I think what I am going to do now, you know, I clip the ends together, and let's see how I can do this. I'll try to do this. So that's where we're at, which I think is really good. So what I am going to do is, I'm probably going to put the end, yeah, I like that. I can see in this little mirror. I'm going to take the end that is still on the needles. Oh, I'm going to get really tangled up here. So this end that's on the needle, I think I'm going to put on some scrap yarn, and I'm going to lay this out. I'm going to put blocking mats in one long strip, and I'm going to steam this because I think that's going to open it up a little bit and might increase the length too. And I don't want it to get too long. So that is what I'm going to do, is take this off, put it on scrap yarn, stretch it out on blocking mats, and then steam it and see where we're at. And I think we're probably done with it. So I would have liked to have had that process done already, but it's been a busy month so far. I will say, and I don't think I shared this, when I started the cowl, I believe it instructed to cast on a 24-inch cord, which I did at the beginning, but I don't know if you can see, those are really stretched out, and it just felt like that circumference was too big for how many stitches we were instructed to put on. And so you can see like down here, or maybe a little further down, I switched to a 16-inch, which I really like the fabric I was getting better. So, and it didn't seem like the stitches were as spread apart. So I think, you know, I can see that this is really stretched out. So I'm hoping that with blocking, I can even this all out. Otherwise, I may have to go back and pick up stitches and maybe reknit this part on the smaller circumference needle. So we will see about that. But I am going to put this away for a week. We're going to be going away, and so I am not going to deal with this until I get back, when I have time to really, you know, just think about this, lay it out, steam block it, and see what that does. I really love the scrappiness of this. I hope I wasn't fleshing this too fast, but it has been so much fun. I'm just anxious to have it done. I have loved just all of the different colors. If you've been here, you know I just love color. I love all colors. So this has just been a great project to work on. So I absolutely could see myself making more of these, because I have lots of scraps of fingering weight yarn. And you could do the same thing with DK weight, or worsted weight, or anything. I mean, truly just adjust your needle size and the stitches that you cast on. So, you know, maybe a DK weight one would be really fun to do too. But that is the Fiddly Bits cowl. I have 2 more works in progress today. And these are both items that I am working on, for the Mery Make-Along. So 2 things that I've kind of identified as things that I would like to have in the winter or for Christmas. Not gifts. I do have Christmas gift knitting to do. But right now I am just working on these. So the first, my bags are are kind of falling off the table. I'll share this bag. I'm sorry I didn't share the bag for the other one. I should share this again. I've shared this one a number of times. This is the cowl bag, and this is Heidi West on Etsy, and it is a beautiful bag. I absolutely love that. This is a fun summer bag. This is by Awesome Granny, and I just love that print. I think this just is so sweet and such a fun summer bag. This is housing the Karen double layer mittens. This is by Lux Adorna Knits. And so double layer, so you start with the inside of the mitten. And so I have the inside of the mitten, and I'm ready to place my stitches. It's on waste yarn right now. I'm ready to place my stitches back on the needle and pick up and knit the main, or the outer part of the mitten. So this is the inside, and then the outside, let's see, I don't want to give too much away. If you can see, that has a lacy eyelet detail. And so I am going to use this color for the outside of the mitten, the eyelet part. This is Debbie Bliss Baby Cashmerino. This is the dark gray colorway. I think this is just called light pink. It is made up of 55% wool, 33% acrylic, and 12% cashmere. Very, very nice and soft. My friend Lois, who is an in-person knitting friend for many, many years, she made a pair of these with this yarn, and I got to try them on, and they were absolutely wonderful. So I am really excited. These have been kind of on my wish list to make for a very long time. If you've been here a while, I didn't make my first pair of mittens till just a couple years ago, and that was a project that in my mind was so daunting, was to make a pair of mittens. And you know, I used Tin Can Knits, the world's simplest mitten. And, you know, it was not hard at all. I don't know why I had psyched myself out, but it was not hard at all. But again, it's been a couple years since I've made mittens. No, that's not true. That's not true. I did make a pair of mittens earlier this year because I had a pair on my, I have a pair on another pair on my Make 9 list. So the wood stack mittens. But looking at the pattern and realizing that there was a lining and there were some different things in there that I wasn't sure about, I was kind of daunted and intimidated by this pattern. It starts with what is it, Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Cast On, which I have never done, but you started up there, and I did it, and it wasn't hard. And, you know, silly me, I started it kind of late at night, which is always a no-no, but I made it through and it was just fine. So I know I'm going to have to do that again on the second mitten too, but I think that's going to be just fine. And then because I was working down this way, there was a provisional cast on for the thumb. And I thought, wow, like a provisional cast on during a project that you're already working on. You know, I was only familiar with a provisional cast on as you're starting a project. Yeah, with the mitten, you know, I know you add stitches in different projects. I guess I'm always used to either the cable cast on or the backward loop cast on when you're adding stitches, but this called for a provisional cast on. So I was really nervous about that, but it turned out fine. And you can see I have one mitten, you know, lining, and it fits just fine. So I really just need to calm down about that, because I just don't know why I was so nervous about this, but it's going really well. I'm very, very excited now to attach the pretty, you know, delicate, soft, feminine pink color and work on the pattern with those eyelet details. I think that is going to be fun. So I just need to be a little bit more adventurous, I guess, when it comes to mittens. So that is the first project that I am working on for the Mery Make Along. And then my final work in progress whip is also for the Mery Make Along. This is the Gallway Christmas Stocking by Woolen Knots. And this, let's see. Yep. This is how far I have gotten. And the idea is you will turn the cuff over. But hopefully you can see we have some different textures going on. You started with the ribbing for the cuff, and then you have this texture here, and then I'm in the middle of this diamond texture. So I think what really drew me to this pattern was all of the textures. It kind of reminded me of, you know, an Irish sweater where they have all of the different cables and all of the different stitches, which really tell a story. And this was just reminiscent of that for me, but on a much smaller scale, using some, you know, a really natural wool. This is by, let me see, Fence Post Fibres, which is a farm in Missouri. It's a very nice yarn to work with. There are some thick and thin spots, but it is fairly soft. It still feels rustic, but it has a lot of bounce to it, a lot of squish, a lot of nice squish. And I think that the stitches are showing up pretty well. So this has been a joy to work on. I will say I'm a little intimidated by the heel on this. The heel uses, let me just, I have to finish the diamond pattern, then it goes into a double moss seed stitch pattern, and then the heel. And it's a wrap and turn short row heel. If you followed me a while, you know for socks, I mainly do heel, flap, and gusset. I've done a German short row heel, you know, with the double stitch but the wrap and turn I have not done. So, or not wrap and turns on a sock. I've done that technique in a sweater before for short rows. I don't like it. I always substitute German short rows. So I may have to do that for this heel, but we will see. We will see. Yeah, so I just figured this will be a cute stocking for a decoration for Christmas time. You know, maybe some greenery or something sticking out of the top would be really pretty. So definitely enjoying the stitch pattern and the different stitch patterns on here. That's been really fun. I hope to get both of these projects done this month. Oh, and the Fiddly Bits cowl finally. So we'll see about that. But I am enjoying all of my projects right now. Just anxious to be done with that cowl. So that brings us to the end of the projects, the knitting, the crocheting. We're gonna get into some questions that were given to me, but I don't know why I didn't say this at the beginning of the episode, but we are going to have a giveaway, and it's going to be for two different things. There is going to be one giveaway for this being the 100th episode, and I was so generously given this skein of yarn by Dani of Lumberjack Yarn, hand dyed in Muskegon, Michigan, which is really close to where I grew up. She used, you know, definitely Carla colors. I love all the shades of pinks and the little purple in there. But she named this 100th episode. And Dani, I cannot tell you how much that means to me. I think this is going to be really hard to break into and use just because it's so special. I know I will at some point, but oh, I just don't know. I just love it. I just need to have it with me for a while. But she is generously going to give one to a winner. So for this giveaway, 100th episode giveaway, you need to be a U.S. resident. I will be picking from the comments from this video. So if you'd like to enter to win a skein of yarn just like this, you know, put a comment down below, and I will be drawing on the next episode. So that is the only way. You will not hear from me outside of the podcast. So on the next podcast, 101, I will announce the winner for this skein of yarn. Then, I really should have said this at the beginning of the episode. I'm sorry, guys. And then we, you know, a little while ago this summer, we hit 1,000 subscribers. So that is a really big deal. I am really happy and really excited about that. And so I would like to have a giveaway for that as well. So the giveaway for that will be a $20 Ravelry money, I guess, for you to pick patterns totaling up to $20, and that will be for one winner, and that is open to everyone, US and internationally. So a $20 Ravelry pattern prize. So again, for either of these, just comment down below, and I will be picking one winner for the yarn and one winner for the pattern prize on Ravelry. So again, thank you guys for being here and making this channel so special, for being a part of the Carla Knits community. I just love it. I had posted on YouTube, I don't know, just a little while ago, maybe a week ago, you know, I'd like to have some questions, you know, for this podcast, you know, being the 100th episode. And so I did get from 2, 4, 6, I got some questions from 7 people. And so I think that's a good amount for me to talk about right now. So we're going to get into this and have some fun. I have some, older knitting to share with you for some of these. So here we go. This is from Nancy Willick. Hi Carla, do you remember the first pair of socks that you made? Yes, I do. And I have them here. These are affectionately known as Jeff's clown socks. They are very well worn, and they were very much scrunched up in the drawer. She said, how did it go? Well, you can see that it is ginormous. The sock is really, really big. I used a free pattern from Red Heart. This is Red Heart Heart and Soul yarn, and it was in the Christmas colorway. I would, you know, they don't make this yarn anymore. I would love to have this yarn though and make another pair of socks because I think it is so fun, the self-patterning yarn. But I started on DPNs, you know, trying to teach myself, having help and encouragement from my my in-person friends. My friend Joanne had opened a yarn store in our town in 2013, and I'm not sure, I don't know if I started socks then or maybe it was 2014, but whenever I did start, I know I started on DPNs and had encouragement from her and from my friend Lois. And if you've knit socks on DPNs, if you remember back to the first time, it's kind of fiddly, but eventually you kind of get a rhythm. Well, I just knit it. It was way, way, way too big. But Jeff really loves these socks because he wears these over another pair of socks, and it makes it very nice and toasty warm for like when he's snow blowing outside on a really cold winter's day. So he really loves these socks, and he tells me, you know, make sure that you tell them that I really love these socks, and I've seen him wear them many, 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 many times. So I will say I knit the first sock, you know, and, you know, I was happy going through the process. It was intimidating, the heel flap and gusset, you know, and turning. I think that is very intimidating probably to a first time knitter. But got through the sock, and I was very disappointed, you know, that it turned out so big. And so I put that sock away in a project bag, and I just put it away and said, I'm not going to be a sock knitter. You know, I was just really disappointed. And then I think it was a whole nother year, and I said, you know what, I really should just make another sock, see if I can make it match, try again. And I did. And the process was okay. And so I thought, okay, I have a completed pair of socks. Although it's really big, I do have a completed pair of socks. And I was proud of myself because I think, you know, looking back when I was a new knitter, for me, being able to knit a pair of socks was like so, you know, so far above what I thought I would ever be able to do. And so to have made something that actually looks like a sock was really, really exciting. Well, since then, you know that I love knitting socks, and I have made many, many pairs of socks. And I know sometime I need to do a sock tour of all of my socks that I have, but I absolutely love knitting socks. And so that is the first pair. So thank you, Nancy, for that question. I was really happy to share this. She also asked, when did you learn to play the piano? So I was 13 years old when I started taking lessons. I always had a big interest in music and was in choir, but started taking lessons when I was about 13, which seems kind of late to get your start at that age, especially since that is my career now. But I took lessons, and then I went to college and continued to study piano and organ, and now I teach piano at the college in our town. I play the organ for churches. I teach piano to kids, so it's something that I loved and wanted so bad, so I really worked hard and stuck with it. And did you teach your kids? It is not easy to teach your kids, if any of you have tried that. Our boys did not show, I have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Our boys did not show a whole lot of interest. Our second son, Ryan, was interested in the organ for a while, and so Jeff, my husband, taught him that. And so I remember him playing a couple times at church, you know, some simple songs. But then, you know, our boys discovered sports, and that was it. So then no more with the music. Our daughter Jenna, very musical. She is actually studying vocal music in college. She played the flute. She did a little bit of piano with me, but never really stuck with it. So she played the flute, she plays the ukulele. She loves being involved in choirs and taking voice lessons. But this year in college, she had to take keyboard classes. And so she has really learned a lot over that first year of college. So now she plays the piano, but no, I cannot take credit for that. So thank you, Nancy, for those questions. I'm going to take a break and then I will come back with some more. All right, continuing on with questions. Candy, who I will say is my knitting birthday buddy. We both share July 14th birthdays. So happy birthday, Candy. She asks, hi Carla, do you have a favorite project that you knit over and over? I looked back on my Ravelry page and trying to think back before I used Ravelry. I will say there are a couple things that I've knit twice, and there are some socks. There are yes, there are things that I have made more than once. So I'm going to share those projects with you. Hats, I have made 3 of the antler hat by Tin Can Knits. That is a free pattern. It is a cable pattern. I know when I make that, I leave out 1 cable repeat because it gets too long, but I have made that hat for Jeff. I made it for my dad, and then I made it for one of Jeff's uncles. I think it's a really well-fitting hat. I think it looks good. You know, both men and women. I really enjoy knitting that hat. So the antler hat is something I have knit a few times. As far as sweaters, I have knit the Love Note sweater by Tin Can Knits 2 times, and I have knit the Kaisa tee by This Bird Knits 2 times, and I could definitely see myself knitting those both again. The Changing Staircases shawl by Dragon Horde Yarn, I have knit 2 times. That is a 1 skein shawl, a fingering weight yarn. I really enjoy that pattern. I think it's a nice size for a 1 skein shawl, a really nice accessory. So I have one that I've worn before on the podcast in a bright green color by Volenvine, and I knit one for my sister a while back for a birthday gift. And then there are a couple of sock patterns that I have knit more than once. And this goes along also with Wyoming Knits, Jenny Lee. Do you have a favorite go-to sock pattern when you want something other than vanilla? So I will say these I have knit a few times. So 2 times I have knit the Austin sock by the Crazy Sock Lady. This was one of her first patterns, so I believe she had a pattern that she named after her son Austin, and I don't know if there's a Wyatt sock, but I have knit the Austin sock a couple times. It's just a really simple texture. I think that's a really good one if you want to go from plain stockinette knitting into something just a little more adventurous. I really like that pattern, and I have some yarn that I will be knitting up for a gift this year, and I think I'm going to use that pattern too for just a really simple texture. Then the Wish You Were Here socks, I made these 2 times. Both were for gifts. The Wish You Were Here sock is by the Kitchen Sink Shop. And then another Crazy Sock Lady pattern is On the Hill socks, and I have made that pattern 3 times. So I guess those are the ones that I have knit more than once. And she said a favorite project that I knit over and over. I guess I would have to say socks are definitely my favorite project to knit. But it was interesting for me to go through Ravelry to see how many, were there multiples of projects that I've made. So thank you for that question, Candy. Roselba B, Rosie, who I shared her mitts in the Mery Make Along at the beginning. She wrote, "Hi, Carla, congratulations. I love watching your podcast." Thank you, Rosie. My question is, did you ever get disappointed with a finished project that just didn't turn out right? I will say I often get disappointed with sweater projects. I'm so excited when I cast on a sweater. You know, you have ideas of how it looks on other people, and you kind of imagine wearing it, you know, how you will style it, what you'll wear it with. But I believe this was the first cardigan that I knit, and I don't have it any longer, but I'm going to put pictures of it in. It was I think an Interweave, the Interweave Knits magazine. It's called the Diminishing Rib Cardigan. And I just thought it was so pretty and feminine. I loved that little, it looked like a little peplum on the sweater. I just thought that was so pretty. So the original pattern calls for the yarn was a silk merino blend. And I used an acrylic yarn. And so, you know, I've knit enough now that, you know, you're going to have different outcomes if you don't use a yarn very similar in properties to what the pattern calls for. So that was the first thing, that the yarn was not the same as the yarn called for in the project. The other thing, I don't think I made a gauge swatch at the time. Yeah, I don't remember. But after that, I assure you, I have made gauge swatches for sweaters since then. So I didn't make a gauge swatch, and the sweater turned out extremely, extremely, extremely large. It was in a beautiful green color. I absolutely loved the color of the yarn. I got it at your store, Joanne. But it turned out very big. I did not execute my make ones correctly in the pattern. So I had a bunch of holes, or essentially like eyelets, in places that there shouldn't be. So there was a lot wrong with that sweater. So I think I probably donated that, maybe tossed it away. I don't think I tossed it away, but I think I probably donated it to Goodwill. And if you saw in the picture, you know, it kind of lays flat against the model in the picture, but my flaps just flapped open. And there wasn't a button band on there, so I don't think there was any way that it was gonna stay in place, but it looked like it was staying in place in the picture on the model. So so that probably was one of my most disappointing projects. And I'm glad it didn't sour me on continuing to knit sweaters. You know, I've only worked on one sweater this year. That was finishing my Love Note sweater back earlier this year. I have a lot of sweaters that I have knit, and there are a lot of disappointments for various reasons in them, or just maybe not disappointments, but things that I don't exactly like. And so those of you who knit sweaters, do you find that you get so excited, but then it's finished and it's just not quite what you envisioned? So I have some of those, and I would love to do a sweater tour of my sweaters sometime. And maybe I will do that and share some of those things with you. You know, I have grand ideas of doing these things this summer before I go back to work, and summer is fleeting, but maybe I will do that. But I thought that was a good question. So yes, that was a disappointing finished project. Also, which technique or project surprised you the most when you found out how much you enjoyed doing it? And I will say I can think of three things. The first time I did cables, and that was in a Afghan sampler, doing cables, and I just, you know, that was intimidating to me. I thought, oh, you know, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to make a cable or do the cable stitch, but it turned out it looks impressive to me. And then I made a cable cowl for my daughter-in-law, and loved how it turned out. So I think, you know, the cable stitch looks so impressive. You know, it might be a little intimidating at first, but it's worth it to just do it and try it And I think, you know, I was so pleasantly surprised by it wasn't that hard, and the results are incredible. I also think that about color work too. I had just dabbled a little bit in color work with the bobble hat. I shared that a little while ago as a project that I found when I was cleaning my basement, and I didn't do anything beyond that. But in 2020, you know, when we were stuck home more, I thought, okay, I'm gonna try a color work sweater. And so I believe this is my first color work sweater, and this is, let's see, what is this now? Okay, Soldatna, there he is, by Caitlin Hunter. And, you know, I knit this. I wanted it to be bright and pink. I wanted some cheery colors. And so the color work isn't perfect. The tension isn't perfect, but it's pretty good. And I guess it surprised me that I was able to do color work, and it turned out looking like a color work sweater. It's probably a little more oversized than it should be, and I don't exactly know how to style it. I know it's supposed to be a cropped sweater, but there was no way I wanted to make it that cropped. So I made it longer, but now, you know, part of me thinks I should almost go back and shorten it, but I don't think I want to do that. But I was pleasantly surprised by color work, and, you know, how beautiful that turns out, and it's not too hard. The third technique I will say is brioche, and I'm just reaching over here. I gotta throw some things aside. I've dabbled with brioche a little bit. Last year I made the Feel Good Shawl by Andrea Mery. I'll show both sides. And brioche, I know people are intimidated by brioche, but once you pick it up, I think it is repetitive, and you just have to pay attention. So I'm really pleased with doing brioche and be able to accomplish that technique. So I really do enjoy it. I haven't knit anything brioche this year, but I'm sure in the future a brioche project will come up. So thank you for that, Rosie. Amy asks, Carla, how and when did you discover indie dyed yarn, and when did you start building your stash? Indie dyed yarn. So I love indie dyed yarn, as is evident of my yarn stash here. I've kind of gone really hog wild crazy. I guess, you know, I discovered knitting podcast. I just, you know, once I got into knitting that in 2013, I just really went crazy with it. I had been a crocheter and then started to learn how to knit, and just wanted to get my hands on everything knitting. So I read knitting fiction, and then discovered this whole world of knitting podcasts that were out there. And there weren't so many at the time, but I remember watching Vine, Kristen. I remember watching Kemper Ray of Junk Yarn. Those are a couple of the earliest ones that I remember. And just, you know, loving seeing what they're making. You know, this hand-dyed yarn that Kristen of Vine makes was just so exciting to me. And, you know, her shop updates, they would sell out so quickly. You know, the hand-dyed yarn was so coveted, and I have to get a skein of that. So it was just really exciting. The yarn was so beautiful. My first skein of yarn, hand-dyed yarn, is in this project. I purchased my first skein of hand-dyed yarn in 2013, and it's called Pansy. And I loved this because it actually looked like pansies, the color of pansies. This yarn, it was listed as a merino, but it is super scratchy. It is very scratchy. I don't remember the name of this shawl, but I know I made this a couple times. And you know, it's so tiny that it's not the easiest to keep tied. But I was so excited to work with my first hand-dyed yarn. And so this project is special just because of that. And I think the more, excuse me, the more I saw podcasts, the more I saw beautiful hand-dyed yarns on podcasts, the more I just fell in love and, you know, had to have them. And when I really got into sock knitting, you know, those beautiful skeins of sock yarn, I went crazy. So I have way too much beautiful indie dyed yarn, all with the intention when I bought them of making socks. How many socks do you guys have? If you're knitters who knit socks, how many pairs of socks do you have for yourself in your sock drawer? I'm going to have to count up how many I have, but it's kind of a ridiculous amount, but it's so fun. I absolutely love it. And I have socks that I haven't worn yet. So that's, you know, that's going to be fun. But I really just went crazy with it. And I think especially in 2020, when we were stuck at home, buying yarn was such a fun thing to do. It was such a fun pick me up, you know, to get a skein of yarn, you know, a beautiful skein of yarn or a couple skeins of yarn in the mail. So, you know, I was buying quite a bit in 2020. So I think that probably really built my stash up. So I do love yarn. I do love all the beautiful yarn and the hand dyed yarn. You know, there's such artistry behind it. The different techniques that dyers use. I really admire hand dyers of yarn. So it's beautiful. I'm glad I discovered it. I'm trying to be on a more intentional journey now with my yarn and not going crazy. So I still get tempted, of course, but that's where I started. So 2013 it started with that pansy yarn from Etsy. This one is completely off topic from knitting, but that's okay. This is by Caleb Jalis, who I know, I believe is a graduated student of the university where I teach. He says, a bit off topic, but do you have a favorite hymn? So HYMN. So again, music is my career. I am a teacher, a piano teacher. I play church organ. I attended Concordia College in Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's where I went to school. And my intention was to become a church music director. And I did do that job for a little while, but you know, you get married, you start having kids, and then you don't work full time. And so right now I'm not a church music director, but I am so blessed that I have been able to use my music. So I have been teaching at the college level piano. I teach beginning class piano, and I have private lessons for almost 18 years. And then I have played the organ for many different churches. And then I teach private piano to the elementary school down the road. So I am very blessed that I get to use that. But my first love with music truly is our hymnal. I'm Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and we just have a rich history of hymnody. And so if you are familiar with the Lutheran service book, my favorite hymn is 941, We Praise You and Acknowledge You. The tune is Thacksted, and that is Gustav Holst set the planets to it. So the tune was originally in something by Gustav Holst, and then we used it, and a composer set words to it, and it's just a very powerful hymn that I just love. So thank you for that question, Caleb. Liz Hatch asks, she said, this is our last question. Hi Carla, love your podcast. Thank you. What drew you to knitting, and how did you get into it? So I have always loved crafts. When I think back to being a little girl, I have always loved crafts. I did, the pot holders, with the looms and those little loops. I did that. I've done cross stitching. I loved art class in school. I've done plastic canvas. I've done rubber stamping. I've done so many different crafts. yeah, I think I've tried so many different things, and I just have always loved, being creative and making beautiful things. I love color. I was a crocheter first, taught myself kind of as a teenager. Yes, I did teach myself as a teenager. And then after we got married, did some crocheting then. And I may have shared this before. Jeff remembers when we were first married, I got very frustrated with a crochet project. I believe I was making crochet baskets with fabric, and I had the big, I think it's the Q size hook, and I was so frustrated, and I was sitting on the couch and I whipped that crochet hook. I was so mad, just crying. Whipped that crochet hook, across the living room into the kitchen. It's clattering on the floor. So I kind of had a love-hate relationship with crochet, but I loved yarn. I just, in the store, seeing yarns was just always so fun. And that kind of took a back seat for a while, and I got really into sewing and doing craft shows. I would make primitive things, so I would stitch primitive sayings and then sew them into pillows or little ornaments. I stitched primitive Raggedy Ann dolls or Santas or snowmen, and did a handful of craft shows and really enjoyed that. When our daughter Jenna was 4 years old, she was going to be in a Christmas parade for dance. And they all had little red sweatshirts, and they wanted them to have black hats. And I thought, well, I don't want just any black hat. I want a fun black hat that's unique. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try to find something I could crochet. And so I did find a ponytail hat, where you make curly cues that hang off the back. And I did make that for her. And from that moment on, I was hooked, crochet hook, and was just obsessed with yarn and with crocheting. And so for many years, I crocheted. And my friend Lois, who I've talked about before, she is also a church organist, so loves music, loves yarn, loves crocheting and knitting. And so she helped me a lot with crocheting. So, I learned and grew and got better at crocheting. She and I did a craft show together with crocheted items. And then she joined a group where there were knitters in town. And then Joanne, our friend, opened the yarn store, and she is primarily a knitter. And I would go to the knitting store to the group, but I would crochet. And then Lois is like, oh, you should give knitting a try. And I'd always heard if you're a crocheter, then, you're not going to be a knitter, or vice versa. But I'm here to tell you, you can do both. You absolutely can do both. And so I gave knitting a try. I started with, dishcloths, something really simple. And I loved dishcloths, with pictures in them. So just using knit and purl stitches, and creating a picture. I thought that was so cool. I taught myself first from a children's book in the library. I thought, okay, I'm going to do so basic, and if it's geared towards a kid, I should be able to do it. So I used a children's knitting book, and then had some help with some videos on YouTube. But truly, my friend Lois and Joanne, were helpful and guided me on my knitting journey. And so that was back in 2013, 2014, where I got my start in knitting. And I have been very, very passionate about it ever since. And that's why I started this podcast, just so I could share my love of knitting. And I hope that has come across. My love of yarn, beautiful yarns, my love of knitting, all things related to knitting. I hope you see that in this podcast. So thank you for those questions. If anybody has any other questions, you can sure leave those in the comments down below. Just a little bit of chatter. This week has been a very busy week, and it's a big week. So not only is it, the 100th podcast and 1,000 subscriber giveaway episode, it was also Jeff and my 29th wedding anniversary on Monday. So that was a special day. I have a birthday upcoming this weekend. There's a big worship conference in town. So Jeff has been busy with that, and I've been attending, you know, a couple of the things over there. And we are also getting ready to head out on vacation. So we are heading up to Biwabik, Minnesota, which is pretty remote up in northern Minnesota this weekend. We did it last year. It was a little bit of a Blursh. My last name is Blursh, a Blursh family reunion. So Jeff's aunt and uncle will be there. And then Jeff's brother and family live in Toronto, Canada. And so they'll be there too. So it's a great time to reconnect with family. And it was very relaxing last summer. And I'm looking forward to that very, very much. I've been thinking about projects that I want to take. I said the Fiddly Bits cowl, that's staying here because I think the knitting is done on that. But I am going to take along the mittens. I am going to take along the Christmas stocking. And then I thought, I'm really itching for an actual sock. And it's funny because the Christmas stocking, it's the shape of a sock. The mittens are essentially the shape of a sock too, without the heel. Lots of stockinette knitting, but I'm still craving a sock. So I definitely want to take a sock project or two along. So I do want to share some yarn that I got from my friend Lois. So she gifted this yarn to me for my birthday, along with a knitting pattern. So this yarn is Emma's yarn, Emma sock yarn. So it's an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. It's very squishy, bouncy. And it's called Vacay, for vacation. And I love the colors, pinks and greens. That is just so beautiful. And then she gifted me a knitting pattern, which I know I wrote it down here. The pattern is called Vacation Socks. I'm going to include a picture here by Marie Elise Dougal. So I think that is going to be the perfect thing to bring along on vacation. So I wanted to share this before I, caked it up. But I think that is going to be really fun to work on. A fun pattern sock. I may bring along another skein of yarn for, a plain sock. Maybe not. We'll see. I do have... It's a 9.5 hour bout, or maybe a little more, car ride. And I'm hoping Jeff and my daughter Jenna will do the majority of the driving. So I will have a lot of knitting time in the car, both ways. And I know I had a lot of knitting time last summer too when we were there. So I'm looking forward to my projects, some knitting by the lake, and especially this new cast on. So thank you so much, Lois, for this beautiful, beautiful birthday yarn. So we have come to the end of the 100th episode of Carla Knits. So once again, 2 giveaways. So 100th episode, the beautiful skein of yarn. So Dani will send this to you. If you are the winner. So I will announce the winner for that on the next podcast. And then also for the 1,000 subscriber giveaway, $20 in Ravelry patterns. And that one is open to all. So please comment down below. I don't have a prompt. So if you want to be entered in the giveaways, just make your comment down below. Share what you're working on. Anything you would like to share, I would love to hear. So I hope that you are all doing well. I hope that you are enjoying summer. Probably going to take a few weeks off now before I podcast again. So I need a little bit of a break, but I'll be back with you in probably a few weeks. So thank you so much to all of you who have joined me today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys really soon. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.